Is crime really down in East Baton Rouge Parish? Are fewer people dying from overdoses? This week, we go straight to the source. East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff Sid Gautreaux. He joins us for a special uncut conversation. What's driving most of the crime? One word: drugs. From fentanyl to gang activity, the sheriff says a new gang intelligence unit is making a serious dent. Less fentanyl on the streets, fewer overdose deaths, major criminals taken down. But is it enough? We dig into the numbers, the challenges, and what's happening behind the scenes at the jail, the Juvenile Detention Center, and with federal partners working to clean up our streets. I'm Kiran Chawla, and this is Louisiana Unfiltered. Welcome back, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and venture off and say we have a very rare guest in today. East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff Sid Gautreaux, as well as one of their homicide supervisors, Lieutenant Scott Henning.
Yes.
Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Sheriff, I want to kind of cut to the chase, and obviously you're sheriff, top law enforcement official for East Baton Rouge Parish, and that's the capital parish. A lot that happens here is seen statewide, if not nationally. Yeah. Let's go straight to talking about where does crime stand overall in East Baton Rouge Parish? Well,
there's some strides have been made, and of course, but Kara, I don't look at the stats. The only stat I'm interested in is how people feel. Or they feel safe? Do they feel safe in their community? Do they feel safe in the parish? And until those numbers go down, some of them have gone down a little, but if we want to get them down even further, and that's what we strive to do. To me, it's all about providing a service and safety and protection to all of our citizens. And I don't care where you live, whether you're in a gated community or whether you're in one of the poorest areas of East Baton Rouge Parish, everybody deserves that. Everybody deserves to live in a safe environment. And that's what we strive to do at the sheriff's office. So that's the only stat. I don't play the numbers game because, sometimes numbers can be manipulated, and I don't go there with that. It is what it is. But as far as Sid Gautreaux is concerned, Sheriff, the stats are not where I would like to see them yet. There is some, and I'm sure Scott will tell you, there's some areas that we're making some progress in, and we're very proud of what we're doing. But until we can get it lowered, we're never going to eliminate it, but we need to get it lowered, in my opinion.
So you said that you kind of base it on how people feel. What is your perception of how East Baton Rouge feels right now?
Well, I think there's a lot of concern, a whole lot of concern about people's safety. I hear it every day. People talk to me every day about it. And it's like I say, it's all over. And you're not, just because you live in a gated community or whatever, you're not immune from it. And people travel throughout the parish, whether they shopping or going to see friends or whatever, or going to work. I want them to feel safe no matter where they are, and that's what we're striving to do. But some of it is because they haven't had proper information, as far as I'm concerned. You got to inform them, and you got to tell them what's happening and why it's happening and where we are. But I'm not big on stats. Stats give you It gauges you where you are, but it's not telling the whole story either way, whether it goes up or go down. So, and I'm sure Scott agree with that. We just strive to, present ourselves to people in a way that we're here to help you, and we want to help you, and we want to work with you. And we've been getting we've always gotten great results from the public, no matter what happens. And you've been in the middle of a lot of it. no matter what happens, we get people calling us while we still on the scene, and that I'm very proud of that, because I'm proud of the men and women that serve in East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office. We got some wonderful men and women who serve in there, and they serve for the right reason. And the only reason to be in law enforcement, and you know this, is to serve. That's all we do. We don't manufacture some good or sell some commodity, whatever. We just provide a service, and that's to serve and protect all the people in the parish, no matter where you live or who you are. And that's the only stat I'm worried about. But whether it's perceived or whether it's real, people are very concerned about their safety, and rightfully so. And that's the only stat I'm interested in. Until that takes a nosedive and we're making progress, but until that makes a nosedive and gets where, I don't want to ever say where you can live with it, but like I said, you can't eliminate it all, but we can do everything in the world we can in our power to try to make East Baton Rouge Parish as safe a place to live as possible.
You and I have worked together long enough. You know that I am very straightforward and very transparent. The perception that we have, in speaking with other officials as well, is straight up, we're terrified to go into Baton Rouge. Mm-hmm. Some of that is the city itself, be it downtown, but driving through the interstates. A lot of people are choosing not to go into Baton Rouge anymore. They're preferring to stay in West Baton Rouge or go to Gonzales, go to Juvenile. And the proof in the pudding is that the crime's starting to pick up in those outlying cities that border East Baton Rouge Parish, because people prefer to go into those parishes and stay out of East Baton Rouge Parish. Yeah. So I understand what you're saying, that the stats, like for you, but we've also heard in the past, or I think the Baton Rouge police chief said that the stats, and again, he's only city, you guys are parish, but traditionally their numbers have been a lot higher than y'all's. They are starting to see a little bit of a decrease. So are there some numbers, Lieutenant, that we can look at to even say, hey, compared to last year, we had X number of murders so far this year, and this year we're at X number?
Yeah, so we have seen a decrease from year to year, from 24 to 25. As of July of this year, we're down. The sheriff's office is down. We investigated 14 murders last year. We're down to 10 this year. So roughly, it looks, my math's right, around 28% decrease. Okay. But we're still up traditionally where we've seen, say, go back 10 years ago, we're still a lot higher than we were. So like the sheriff was saying, that the numbers are a little deceiving. When you look at year to year, yeah, you may see a decrease, but just because it's decreasing for what last year was our highest number, the sheriff's office itself, we investigated our highest number of UCR homicides last year.
What was the final number last year?
Last year was, I believe it was 32. UCR homicides last year.
And that's
for the sheriff's
highest.
Office. That in record, in recent history, for sure. So when you're looking at an outlier like that, where our numbers were really high last year, to see a decrease, it can be a little misinformed, right? Because your numbers there's not that big of a decrease when you're looking maybe going back further years. Okay.
What would you say traditionally has been like your average number at this point? 5, 6, 7?
No, I mean, we're looking generally year total, probably around 20 or so is our year total. But here we are again, we're only halfway through the year and we're already at 14. So to say our numbers are down isn't necessarily correct, like the sheriff was saying.
You mean 10? You said 14.
I'm sorry, we're at 10. 14 was last year.
Last year was 14, 10. Well, to either one of you guys, Sheriff, you've been doing this forever. Summer is usually the peak season of, unfortunately, murders. How are y'all seeing numbers so far this summer? We're halfway through the summer, if you want to call it that.
Right. Well, we always gear up for the summer months because kids are out of school and it just seems to be more idle time or whatever and getting in trouble. But it's, for us, we know our stats are less than what Baton Rouge cities are. And we know that a lot of these activities occurring inside the city. Yeah. Not that we don't have ours, because we do. We just spoke of it. But, it affects everybody. It affects me as sheriff. It affects everybody living in East Baton Rouge Parish. And I tell you what people know, and it's not put out there that much, excuse me. It's not put out there that much, but, we got shot spotters, which you know what they are. Anytime a shots are fired, where we have a shot spotter located, it tells us, to respond to that area. It'll tell us how many rounds were fired. Due to the sound of it, they'll tell us it sounded like a fully automatic, semi-automatic, and even a rifle or a pistol. And when you look at the total numbers of everything, of the shots fired, the people's houses that are shot up, cars that are shot up, nobody may have been hit, but that's all things that drive fear factor up. And the people living in those areas know what's going on. So you can't tell them everything's down, or you got to, I can't, and I won't, because the reality is they're living there and they know how many shots have been fired in their neighborhood. And that gets to be quite a regular occurrence.
Yes.
Well,
and you don't know either. A lot of times you're not reported on unless it's a fatality, somebody's been killed. You don't know the times that people may have been nicked by a bullet or shot, and they go in for treatment, and that never gets reported.
Well, and I know that, I don't know if it's in UCR numbers, but last year or something, we dove into the numbers where it's non-fatal shootings. And there was, in Baton Rouge alone, there was a significant increase in those. So it's good news that people aren't dying, but it's bad news that there's still a lot of attempts to kill people. Lieutenant, let me ask you this, that the numbers, let's back up. Overall, there are obviously other crimes that impact the day-to-day person. If a woman's purse is stolen off of her, that's pretty tragic for a woman.
Oh, absolutely.
It doesn't have to be a shooting, a rape, a vehicle stolen, your car broken into. All those crimes, they impact you. Could you give us any insight into where that stands? And I don't need exact numbers there, but are you starting to see even can you broadly say that overall everything is starting to come down? And Sheriff, feel free to step in if you know that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say maybe starting to come down, but like I said, as far as those specific things, what we do see now is that more people have access to the information, right? It's more things are getting shared on social media, more things are getting pushed out by different people, different platforms, different. So I think it's kind of in people's faces more than what it was in the past. So I think that they're seeing it a lot more. So that may skew with perception as opposed to what the true numbers are. Like the sheriff was alluding to earlier, with people's reception versus their reality.
Makes sense.
And if they live there, that's their reality.
Yep, everybody's on
no matter
social
what the
media.
numbers say.
Yeah, and it's true. Scott's exactly right, and that's the way I feel. I mean, I don't know what's going on everything in your neighborhood. You know more than me, but we get shared information a lot, and that's one thing I'm proud of with the men and women in the office, that these gals out on the street, they cross bridges with people, they join together with people, so they're actually getting the feel of the community that we serve, and they know what's going on. We have a great homicide clearance rate. What is it right now, Scott?
It's in around 80%.
Yeah, which nationwide, what is 56% or something
around
like
50,
that?
low
huge.
50s.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's huge.
Yeah, and it's because of the fact that these men and women work as hard as they do, but they're out in the community, and that community has bonded with them, so to speak, and we've created some trust between us and the communities that we serve, and they give us a lot of information. That's one reason we clear as many as we do. So, but it goes back to perception, and that's what I said earlier. How somebody feels, whether it's perceived or real, that is my concern. And until I can get the parish to a point, or we can get the parish to a point, I don't like to use I because it's a team, but if we can, get where we want to be, I think the public is going to be a lot more at ease over things. And but you talk about riding the interstate. I never was like this, but in recent years, I've got where when I'm traveling anywhere, I'm looking to see who's next to me at a stop sign or a red light. I look to see who's coming up behind me on the interstate. I mean, I'm very, very aware of those things. And, not to say I wasn't paying attention, but I pay a whole lot closer attention to my surroundings now than I did 5 or 6 years ago.
Well, let's – 1 second. Or go ahead.
Well, I was just going to piggyback what the sheriff said, and I think the same thing that he's seeing, and I felt myself doing the same thing. You're maybe a little less hesitant to honk at the horn when somebody's sitting at a red light and it turns green as you would have been in the past. And I think because those things do happen, right? I mean, there's been several interstate shootings. There's been several of these high-profile incidents that we all know about, the public knows about. So I think on the same token, us in our everyday lives, we find ourselves in that same situation like the citizens are. Like he said, where you're a little more aware of your surroundings, kind of who's in the car next to you at the red light, who's in front of you, who's behind you. To some extent, we're living that same reality that the citizens feel too.
Makes sense. And I guess these are things that are outside of anybody's control. People are short-tempered. Mm-hmm. People are living in I need everything done right this second. And one of the biggest problems that I see on the roadways is the distraction of a phone in your hands. So I guess as sheriff, you brought up a very valid point. To everybody, it sounds like you're saying you kind of need to be more aware of your surroundings at all times.
Exactly.
There's only so much law enforcement can do.
That's right. We can't be everywhere every minute, and we try to be as many places as we can, but we'll never have. We're short right now, about 100. Oh, we're not that much. About 75, 80. We're somewhere down about 75 to 80 deputies. So we don't have the personnel that we want to have to serve, but we're getting there. We have a robust. Carl Dabadie is over my recruiting and my training and all that, and he's done him and his people have done a tremendous job. So we go out and we go to the job fairs and we reach out. We start to get some good applicants, but my point is that it's the perception of some people, and we got to try to change the perception. If it's not really that bad, okay, but if it is that bad, here's what we're doing, and we're trying to do more in your area. But it all boils down to personnel too. We just right now every division I have is short, and like I say, we got about 80, 85 spots open.
Well, speaking of perception, one of the biggest things that we have seen coming out of East Baton Rouge Parish is multiple gang arrests. And Hiller Moore, district attorney in East Baton Rouge Parish, for the longest time refused to admit we have gangs. He's explained to himself that he refers to gangs as what you are used to seeing on TV, the New York gangs, but there are groups. He calls them groups, but the truth is they do. These young kids are forming a small little gang, 3, 4, 5 peoples, and maybe they're selling drugs, maybe it's something, but they refer to themselves as gangs.
That's right.
Your gang task force has been enormous in making some major arrests. And then, so I want you to talk about that. But number 2, you're serving the entire parish when it comes to gang task force, because Baton Rouge PD does not have that. That's
right. Well, thank you for bringing this up. It's something that I'm quite proud of, and I'm proud of the men and women that serve in that gang unit. But back May a year ago, I had the vision that I wanted to, and I saw what was happening and what I say, and I call them gangs. When you got 4, 5, 6 of them, 10 of them, 12 of them, they're involved in some kind of criminal enterprise. They're shooting each other, and it's gangs.
It is.
Now, do I think we have any really hardcore gangs? I don't believe we do. We don't have like the Crips and Bloods and all of MS-13 and all this stuff, and I hope and pray we never do. But we still have gangs here, and that's what prompted me to form what we formed as far as our gang intelligence and enforcement group. And we brought together all the factions necessary. We brought together narcotics. We brought together our street crimes unit. We took in the gang intel through our crime information center. That we bring all that together, and we work very closely with VCU and their people as well. The violent crime unit was started back when Chief LaDuff was in office, and he and I and Hiller, we went to the state police and said we need a space to put all of our detectives, all of Baton Rouge's detectives, working together with our federal partners in one location, and that's at the state police, and we work close with the Fusion Center and all that stuff. But I'm very proud of what they've done, because when I tasked them to do this, I said, look, I'm not interested in seeing how many people y'all can go put in jail. I'm talking about users. We could fill up the jail 10 times over if we wanted, doing that. But I'm interested in the dealers at whatever level. The bigger, the better. And they're just unbelievable what they've accomplished. It's just their stats speak for themselves, and I got that with you. I want to share it with you. But
please.
Scott,
and while you're looking that up, Sheriff, I want to clarify. You said that you have narcotics, gang intelligence. So the task force, is it kind of like maybe a person or two people from each of those?
No, it's the whole divisions. When you look at the narcotics enforcement, it's all of them. When we look at our SCAT unit, which is a street crime, it's all of them. And these people work all together daily basis.
Okay.
It's our our gang intelligence unit and all of that stuff that gets all the intel for us. And we work with them. And we work with our federal partners as well. And we've hit some very high-profile cases.
Have.
We really have. And that's what we're doing. Let me find these stats.
So it's when he's saying that, it's not a person from narcotics.
No, so it's the entire divisions that have been brought together.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
so the same. So
Yeah.
It's their entire narcotics division, the entire street crime SCAT team, SCAT division, the new gang intelligence, which is specific to intelligence for gang-related activity. Those entire divisions are brought together, similar to what we have at the violent crime unit. So it's our entire homicide division, Baton Rouge Police Department's entire homicide division. They're not all under one roof like we are.
Makes sense.
But yes, it's the entire division. It's not just a handful of guys from each division kind of doing their own thing. This is a team effort, a collaborative effort between all those divisions that fall under that umbrella.
Makes sense. You got the stats, Sheriff?
Yeah, I'm laughing at myself. I'm going all through my notes, and it was the top page.
You need more coffee, Sheriff.
Yeah, that's right. From January through July of this year, our gang intelligence and enforcement unit, which I said is SCAT unit, narcotics and gang intel, they've made over 101 arrests. They've seized 186 firearms, 19 of which were stolen. They've confiscated 12 pounds of fentanyl, 2,667 pressed fentanyl pills, 4.8 pounds of crack cocaine, 15.4 pounds of meth, 515 pounds of marijuana, Loratabs, Oxycontin, MDMA, promethazine, it's all of the drugs. But and this is just in that time from January to now of this year. We've already confiscated over $1 million in funds too that they had. We seized 5 vehicles and 3 stolen vehicles, and we got kniving hits on some of the stuff that we got, like guns and stuff, on 11 different cases. But I'm going to take you back further. Since we started this gang intelligence unit and enforcement unit, which was a year ago in May, we've arrested over 1,000 drug dealers. We've confiscated over 1,000 firearms, many of which are stolen. Many of them are automatic converters. They've had converters in them. As we sit here today in that time span, we have confiscated enough fentanyl in single dosage to almost kill twice of the populace of LSU Stadium on a Saturday night. That's a lot of people.
Wow.
We were last year when I talked about it, or year before, it was last year when I talked about it. We had enough. We related it to all the people in Tiger Stadium on a Saturday night. It's going on double that right now. And the last arrest we made was quite big, but we've busted some cartels that were trying to set up shop here. We working with out-of-state agencies as well as us here in Baton Rouge, and we're working with our federal partners as well. But it's just been a phenomenal deal on where we started and where we're going, and we all saw the value of doing this.
Yeah.
But everybody I've tasked, everybody that works in that, everybody that works in VCU, they're all totally dedicated to this and doing what we can to take as much off the streets as we possibly can. And like I say, we have had some street level dealers that we've taken off, but we're after every dealer, but the bigger the better.
Well, of course, because those are the distributors to the smaller dealers.
That's right.
Would you say that drugs appears to be the root cause of pretty much majority of crime?
Yeah, I would say it does. It's either you got a lot of addicts that are committing petty thefts, burglarizing vehicles, whatever, and they're stealing it to getting money to buy drugs. So the users do have an impact on this. But then again, when you have a market, and the United States is the biggest market in the world for illicit drugs, when you have that kind of market, you're going to have people that's going to try to benefit off of that. And that's what these gangs are doing. They're selling dope on a big scale.
And we've been doing a deep dive into OD numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Overdoses are down significantly,
Yeah.
and not just in East Baton Rouge Parish. A lot of our neighboring parishes are down as well.
That's right.
A lot of those are fentanyl numbers. Fentanyl has been the drug of choice for, I'd say, the last 3, 4, 5 years. Things really picked up when it came to fentanyl. Would you say it is your gang intelligence task force that's made a major dent in that?
I would say it is, because I can sit here and sing our praises, but when you got the DA and the Attorney General and our federal partners all the way up to Washington that are commending our people for what they're doing, we know we're hitting on the right thing. So, yeah, I would definitely say the work that these men and women are putting into this, their dedication to it, they're totally ingrained in the task here, and it shows what the work that they've done on the streets. And I think that, Scott, you might want to touch on the correlation of, how we take somebody off the street like that.
Right. So we, as the homicide division, we have a great working relationship with the gang unit, and specifically the narcotics guys when it comes to the fentanyl overdose. And we've had a lot of success. In the last probably year, maybe 2 years, we've kind of tweaked the way we're handling those overdose death investigations to kind of bring them in on the front end. So essentially, without getting into a whole lot of case specifics, but what we're doing now is that, so if we respond to an overdose death, our detectives are going to go out there. They're going to have their crime scene techs and all that. They're going to go and do their investigation. And at any point in that investigation, whether it's at the scene or through the follow-up, if we get any actionable intelligence, so something that we can actually try and work with, whether it be a name of a dealer, phone number, any of those type of identifiers that we have something that we can do, we're going to immediately reach out to our narcotics division. We have an agent that's assigned as kind of our liaison from them to us, and he's going to come either to the scene, to the office. We're going to brief. We're going to look at that, share that information. And while we're working the death investigation aspect of it, they're going to initiate an independent but parallel investigation into the narcotics side of it to see what they can do to further identify the dealer. And our goal is to, if we're able to identify that dealer, is not just say, okay, this is the person that sold the drugs to Joe Smith that caused their death, but to establish that dealer is in fact a drug dealer, and this wasn't a one-time deal, This wasn't they found some drugs in a parking lot and they sold it to support their own habit, right? We're trying to establish that these are, in fact, drug dealers that are pushing these products. So what they're doing is they're going to run their parallel investigation while we're doing the death side. And if they're able to identify the dealer and make their own case, if you will, establish their own probable cause, they're going to work the dope end of it, and we're going to kind of come in on the backside too. And we've seen a lot of success with that.
It's almost 2 for 1, because if they're
really
doing that, then they have now another case they can follow when it comes to the gang intelligence
Correct.
unit.
So, and they can continue working that narcotics end as far as it'll take them. And while, toxicology takes time on our ends, it's hard for us to charge. We can't charge somebody until we have an official cause of death from the coroner's office. So those things take time, but we're not going to sit back 6 or 8 weeks and wait for a cause of death and then initiate investigation. We're going to do that. We're going to initiate that as early on as we can. And here recently, just to kind of highlight a case that we had back in June, we had one of those cases where we went to an overdose death, and while we were on scene, we received information from a source there that led us to some information about the dealer. Called our narcotics agents. They came over, met with us at the scene, ended up going up to the VCU. We did some interviews with them and the source that provided the information to us. We were able to get some identifiers and got the dealer identified. But what we've determined is that the dealer actually lived in a neighboring parish. He was in Ascension Parish. He was not in East Baton Rouge Parish.
Okay.
So from there, it kind of branched out. Those narcotics guys reached out to their counterparts in Ascension. We passed along that information, shared that information with them. They were able to work that up, establish their own essential probable cause on that dealer in his residence based in Ascension Parish. Ascension went and executed search warrants, and they get over a pound of fentanyl from this particular person's house.
And this just recently
This was just very recently in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, because I remember reading.
They were able to get over a pound of fentanyl, half a pound of cocaine, multiple firearms, things like that. And here just in the last few days, we've received toxicology results back on the overdose side of it. And last Thursday or Friday, we've obtained an arrest warrant for that person for second-degree murder. And he's currently in Ascension's jail with a detainer waiting to be brought back to East Baton Rouge Parish. So they do work, right? Yeah. So from end of June to middle of July, we've gone from scene response, dealer identified, established that this is a dealer. A large amount of narcotics has been seized, in this case by Ascension Sheriff's Office, but as part of the information that was originated in our investigation, ties their dealer, and then we're able to come full circle with toxicology results and our own investigation on the death side of it and charge that person with second-degree murder.
Well, and I feel like science has improved so much, too, that now it's a law on the books where if you provide the drugs to someone and you're able to prove your drugs are what led to somemo's death, that's murder now.
Right. We've had several cases with that.
And what we've done is getting with last year, kind of around the time when the gang unit kind of started, and we had an internal, what can we do to make this all better, right? We've all been doing this work, but what could we do better? How do we strengthen our overdose cases and our overdose prosecutions on the death side of it? And through those conversations with Hiller Moore and his staff, that's one of the things that we came up with, was not just establishing that this person sold the drugs to the person that's deceased, but that pattern of establishing that they are drug dealers, right? And that this isn't a one-time thing or a happenstance. This is who they are. This is what they do. This is how they support themselves, and they're the ones that are distributing these drugs in our community, and are also the ones that are responsible for this person's death.
Well, and it sounds like, listening to you guys, it sounds like you have really flushed out the root of the problem of drugs. Of course, you're going to have arguments that lead up to a deadly shooting. That's going to happen. But the big problem is drugs, and you guys have really, truly made a dent in that in East Baton Rouge Parish. Well,
and yet we have, and thank you for saying that. I've got some more stats for you, and some of it we talked about, but to give you a little more clarity. Our agents estimate that 80% or more of the violent crime in our parish is committed by street-level gang members and drug dealers. So that's very high. and of course, drugs and gangs go hand in hand. Many of the shootings, armed robberies, burglaries, and weapons cases can be traced back to gangs. So let's go back to what a gang is. The U.S. Department of Justice defines a street gang as a group of 3 or more individuals who share a common name or identifying sign or symbol whose primary purpose is to commit illegal activities. So that's what we have.
A gang.
Yeah, and you know, I think there's a reason these gangs prey off of whatever they have in their area to prey off of. One reason I think the hard-nosed gangs, the Bloods, the Crips, the MS-13, they can't get lost in Baton Rouge.
No.
We're not a big metropolitan area. You can't get lost. And I think that's one reason because of the number of people and all. These things started out in California, Chicago, New York, but they go to these bigger cities. Right now, that's what it surprised us when we got that one cartel that we hit, that we work with authorities in Mississippi, and they had several. We hit it over a year ago, I guess, right after not that long, probably 6-8 months ago, but they were trying to set up shop in this area, and they had locations not only in East Baton Rouge Parish, but they had locations in Ascension Parish and in here in Livingston. And we all worked together to get that out. But there's just the populace is not here for them. So that's why you have local gangs, because they're doing the same thing, but they're doing on a
smaller scale.
Smaller scale. That's exactly right.
Well, let me ask you this. All the fentanyl or all the drugs that you guys confiscate, obviously all of that is properly discarded after the case is completely over with, correct?
Yes, it's all destroyed.
None of that can go back out on the streets.
No.
So all that is product taken off the streets.
Right. Yeah. Once it's in our custody, it will never see the streets again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's huge. You said 12 pounds of fentanyl, correct? Just in this year?
Just this year. That's just this year. Yeah, we've, like I say, for the individual doses, lethal dosages, we're talking about more than, probably 175,000 people that could have potentially died from those individual doses of fentanyl. And, that's it. But I think because of the changing, the law changed in this last session to treat fentanyl like we used to treat heroin. And so there's mandatory sentences now. And I think the work that's being done from the enforcement side and now having to be able to charge them with more severe crimes with more penalty to them, that's somewhat that has kind of stemmed it, but it hadn't stopped the gangs. The street gangs are still doing it, but I think it's helped us to. Nobody wants to go to jail for 20 years, 30 years, and that's.
Oh, okay. You leaving?
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. You can come back in. Okay. 3741.
Sorry, Sheriff.
No, that's all right.
2731.
3741. Well, Sheriff, while we're on a break, are there other things that you guys want to make sure we hit on? I want to talk about juveniles and an increase in crime when it comes to juveniles. What else? I want to also talk about the judicial system. If you guys are seeing the revolving door as much as BRPD is, that's one thing. BRPD is, they're so sick and tired of it.
Well, we have the same judges.
Yeah. So I want to talk about those two things. But in your notes or stuff, is there anything else you want to make sure we touch on since we're in a break?
Let me look over and see if there's anything. Yeah, I've already touched on how close homicide and what a valuable part they play in this gang intelligence deal as well. But we also work with our school drug task force members too.
We can include that in juveniles when we talk juvenile crime.
Okay. No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jim, picking back up at 3905. Well, let's kind of shift gears. I want to talk about, are you guys starting to see an increase in a lot of the suspects being juveniles?
Yes, definitely. We're starting to see, these younger and younger kids that have access to guns for whatever reason, whether they're the ones that are stealing them out of unlocked vehicles, stealing them from family members, unknowingly that have them around their house, whatever it is. But yes, we've definitely seen an increase in the number of juvenile offenders and young teens. They may not, 17-year-olds aren't necessarily juveniles by law anymore, but seeing those kids in that range, that age range, late teens.
Do you know a why though?
Well, I think the older members that are involved in gangs, they know they're looking at stiffer penalties by buying and selling. So they getting these younger kids who are underage, juveniles, to go. They bring them in the fold, so to speak, and they get them out there doing that stuff because they know that their penalty as a juvenile is not going to be anything like what the penalties are for an adult. So I think they're actually recruiting more younger members into it. In fact, we got one group that's pretty much all underage individuals. So I think that has a lot to do with it. But and I think it's a direct correlation to increasing the penalties with an adult, because there's certain, you're gonna get a lot more time now with the laws that they changed in the legislature in regards to fentanyl. So I think that's it. But they and look, it just blows my mind. But a lot of these kids that are pulling triggers on each other, they don't care.
And
they don't care who they hit, a
no.
child or innocent child or anybody. They don't care.
And that's why I said the why. It just appears that there's no regard for life anymore.
So, and that's what we see. You see, they're bolder, they're more careless. They really don't. There's no thought to their consequences. They don't even think about consequences. And I hate to blame video games or anything like that, because I don't believe that video games are the reason. But you have that kind of mentality. Things are getting sensationalized on social media that these kids are seeing. They are playing these video games that promote violence and things like that. And I think to some aspect it desensitizes them to it, right? They get a little numb to it, and then they think it's just this fun, right? And because there's no consequences on a game. They take that coupled with a breakdown in the family unit, where you don't have parents, either mother and father, or you may not even either one of them in the picture. But when you get down to that breakdown and just it's just kind of that snowball effect, and you have these kids that are out there with no, they're not worried about the consequences. If they get caught other than the judicial system, there may not be any consequences at home. I never had to worry about what was going to happen if I got in trouble when I was a teenager with law enforcement.
Of my parents.
I was worried about going home, right? And I think we've seen a breakdown in that just as a society to some extent, and it's just this compounding effect of all these different things that are coming together to make this perfect storm. But it's terrible, right?
But so many of the murders that we're seeing lately, it's 16-year-olds being arrested, 14, 15, 13. And I guess as a reporter who's been doing this long enough, it shocks me that, 15 years old? Oh, my God. I didn't even know what life was at 15. And I guess, and there may not be an answer to this. We just recorded a podcast about a 17-year-old who keeps getting out. He's been on his third charge of murder right now.
Right.
But why? Why is the crime, why are the murder suspects getting younger and younger and younger? And I get what you're saying with the family aspect. Is there anything more that you guys are seeing as law enforcement that is causing this? And again, there may not be an answer to it.
Well, you've heard me say this many a times, but when I got to be sheriff, I was exposed to a lot more than what I was exposed to in Baker. As chief of police. But I use a triangle analogy, and I thought about this when I got to be sheriff. I said, what's going on? Why is this happening? And I started really thinking about it. I prayed about it. And I said, well, what formed my character? For who I am? What formed it? And I use that triangle analogy. The base of that triangle was my home. One side was my church, and the other side was my school. And then I knew I had to do the right thing for the right reasons, and if I didn't, I had consequences to face, sometimes all in the whole triangle. But the circle of influence that surrounded my triangle, the music I listened to, the positive role models I had, the people I looked up to, that just what I wanted to be as an adult when I got to be an adult, that influenced me, coaches, teachers, whoever, maybe the next door neighbor. But when you look at what's happening today, and that's what we're talking about, that triangle is broken at best.
Yes.
The home is broken. It's usually a single mother, or in many cases a grandmother, who's working 2 and 3 jobs just to put the roof over their head and put food on the table. She doesn't have the control she needs or would like to have. They're not in school. They're not in church. So they're not getting any of those messages. They might get it at home, but it's going in one ear and out the other. Everything else, I mean, it's been a total breakdown. But the music, their circle of influence, the music they listen to, the television stuff, the role models that they have, which are all negative, negative role models. They don't have what we had, or even you, Scott. You're a lot younger than me, and I know you are. You're a baby. but I mean, they're not getting direction or teaching them the right things enough to set in, because they listen to what people on the streets are telling them, and they believe that. And Scotty and I could take you anywhere you want to go in the Baton Rouge. We go into some of the worst areas and have some kid on the street and ask him, where are you going to be 5 years from now? They won't hesitate. They said, I'm going to be dead or in prison, but I'm going to get mine while I can. And that's the mentality. That's right, Scott.
No,
I mean, that's
and they almost have this mortar mentality, right?
Yeah.
So that if they do go out there in the streets and they do get killed while they're out committing their whatever it is that they're doing, or living this lifestyle, then that's their way of being somebody, right? Of getting that status, if you will. Wow. And it's hard. I can't wrap my head around it.
No,
right? It makes no sense to me.
No.
It's not. I didn't grow up in that lifestyle. Yeah. I've been exposed. I've been in law enforcement almost 22 years now, 16 working homicide and death. I've seen a lot of this, but it's still, after all these years,
baffles you.
It's hard to understand that mindset, and to see it getting younger and younger.
But I think you got to the crux of it. Like, growing up, if mom looked at me with her eyes wide open, I was like scared. But then there was the fear of God through church, that I have to do the right thing. I have to do the right thing. Then there was also the fear of respecting your teachers. I don't want to disappoint them. Right. I want to be a good student. So
I had a couple. I had a couple of coaches in high school, baseball, football, that they didn't spare the rod with me.
No, look
I messed up. Nobody did.
Coaches play a vital role. In fact, look at Coach Edwards, who is now our mayor. The whole reason he ran for mayor is because he was almost a father figure to a lot of the kids at Estrella High, which is in North Baton Rouge, where a lot of the crime ends up being. And again, he's running into major issues like red tape and things he wanted to get done. You're realizing in politics things don't happen that fast. But let's switch gears one more time. I want to talk about the revolving door. Do you feel the judicial system is a revolving door? Because we see it as reporters nonstop. Y'all as law enforcement are making the arrest. You put them in jail. They go before a judge. They get a bond. They're back out. In fact, you just had one, a burglary suspect who got out for committing a burglary, $10,000 bond. A year ago, $3,000 bond. Before that, another one. The bonds are set so low, he's got back out on the streets. He didn't even leave your premise, and he burglarized facilities around your jail.
That's right. You're exactly right with everything you just said. And there's, it's people. We should all, when we vote for a candidate, I don't care in what candidate it is, whether it's a mayor or council person, the clerk of court, the sheriff, or whoever. People need to pay attention to who they cast their votes for. Not just say, oh, he's a good old guy, blah, blah, blah. You need to really look into him, because the judges are no different. And we got judges up there and that I think start off with the scale of justice even. And as they progress through the deal, they learn more and more which way that goes. But in trying a case or whatever, or hearing them, but there's no reason. I mean, it just defies all logic to me where you've had somebody that's committed a murder, and you're going to let them out on $50,000, $100,000 bond and an ankle bracelet. Some of them commit some crimes that all they get is the ankle bracelet. And, it's not all the judges, just, but you got to take a close look at who you're electing. Don't just say, oh, yeah, he knows him, or he. You got to take a close look at who you're electing, because those people are pretty much there once they get elected, they're there for life.
You are seeing that revolving door, though?
Oh, yeah, we see it. We see it all the time, and it's very frustrating. I mean, it's, Baton Rouge, like you said, mentioned it. They've said it, and we'll say it. It is very frustrating when you have repeat offenders who have done the same thing, armed robbery, whatever, attempted murder, and then they just get
back out on the street.
Yeah, they back on the street, and they got their day in court, but that doesn't mean they have to be back on the street in the meantime. And I know judges. They've got much more now that they can look at to see what a person's past has been. Has this person been arrested on these charges before? To look at the background, especially at sentencing, if they find them guilty. But I don't know. It's very frustrating. It's frustrating to everybody. And this isn't something that's just germane to Baton Rouge.
No.
It's happening all over the state. It's happened all over the country.
Yep.
I don't know. It just makes our job a whole lot harder to do. And then people lose faith in the system. The citizens, they lose faith in the system. So, I want those scales to be even, and it's up to me to prove that this person did this. It's up to us to do that, and then the judge has to decide. But sometimes we got everything, textbook case, everything, and next thing we know, even before now already back on the street.
Right. And it gets disheartening as an investigator, the person that's going out and constantly working these cases, to see these same individuals over and over, and what we try and make sure we push to our guys and our people is to make sure that we're doing what we can control, right? We can only control certain things, and that's putting our best case forward, putting our best evidence together, doing the best job that we can, building as solid of a case that we can put together to give to the district attorney's office for them to do their part, and hopefully they're going to do their best, and that gets passed on to the judges too.
Lieutenant, you and your men and women, when you sit there and you're realizing, okay, this is our suspect, and you sit there and recognize that name, is that not one of those of, why are we even sitting here doing our job?
Oh, absolutely. Just recently, in the last couple months, we arrested an individual for a murder over off of South Harrell's Ferry. We arrested 5 or 6 individuals on that case, and one of the suspects that we arrested was on an ankle monitor from a previous shooting arrest. That the same detective that just by happenstance was the lead detective on the Harrell's Ferry murder was the lead detective on the previous non-fatal shooting. And we had to have those conversations. It's really, you kind of look in the mirror and go, why are we doing this?
Yep.
And it's about more than those two individually. It goes back to why any of us chose this profession and why we're here, and it's serving the victims, right? And we know that the judicial system is something we have to battle. So if we prepare for it on the front end and again put our best case together, build as much evidence as we can, do everything that we can do to strengthen our investigation, then hopefully it makes that push a little easier.
Yep.
And you mentioned the DA's office. Hiller, we have a great working relationship. Our people have a great working relationships with him, and he goes after these individuals. He aggressively pursues them, but we can't change
how the judges rule.
And
let me make that very clear to our listeners. This is not the district attorney is not doing his job. Judges work independently. We have a whole conversation about this. There's really no one guiding a judge. A judge is all the way at the top. So it's hard to tell a judge what they can and cannot do. Last thing I really want to touch on, Sheriff, is you've been doing this for a very long time. You've been in law enforcement your entire life. New Orleans is starting to see a big decrease when it comes to crime. Is it because of Troop NOLA? Is it, and maybe you know more than we do inside stuff, but things that they are doing, something's obviously working. They needed to get a handle on things. It was starting to take a toll on tourism. It was starting to take a toll on even people who lived there didn't want to go out. It's worked. Whatever they did worked. Right. Is there the consideration of, hey, maybe what they did we need to bring into our area?
Yeah. Well, certainly that's the case. When I look at what happened down there, what I know, the things that took place behind the scenes with law enforcement and the rest of them, I think Troop NOLA did help. It gave them a contingency of officers that they didn't have before. It allowed them to direct some of their people that would normally be out on patrol into specialized divisions and to address these things. But I think public outcry did a lot to change things down there, especially after that tragedy they had on Bourbon Street this past football season.
New Year's Day.
Yeah, New Year's Day. I think that changed some attitudes with people, and certainly they did some right things. But another thing I would say too is you've had an influx of people move out of New Orleans, move on the North Shore and in that area. So their population is still high, but it's not near as high as it used to be. And I think a lot of that was some exodus of people leaving New Orleans for what for everything that was going on, that they didn't, they felt that they were in danger of staying there. I think I know their carjackings, those numbers went down. And I think it's due to the efforts of the enforcement was down there to help address those issues. But I don't know.
Have you had I know our mayor has said that he had wanted to talk to the governor as far as doing something similar to Troop NOLA here in Baton Rouge because it had.
Right.
The mayor's never hidden crime is a problem in Baton Rouge. Again, that's Baton Rouge. You're the entire parish. But have you had any conversations with the governor or plan to about maybe doing something along those lines here?
Well, we've met with the governor and his people. We've met with the state police and their people, and they got a thing right now here, an initiative going on in Baton Rouge to try to address some of these things. And I don't know what they're gonna call it, Troop BR or what, but yeah, and they're starting to make some strides in that area. So I'm encouraged by that. We all need help. We all need help. Unfortunately, like I say, we got a robust. We get 150 applicants a month now that want to come to be a workforce, but unfortunately, a lot of those applicants, they don't realize if I'm a convicted felon, I can't serve in law enforcement. And I mean it's wild. I could sit here and talk about that for 15, 20 minutes. Some of the applicants we've got, but but we are getting some good people. And we've been on an average of a hiring. We all have what we call a hiring and promotion event. I don't know if you've ever been, but you're invited to come to any of them you want to. And then we recognize people who've gone above and beyond. We give them challenge coins. We recognize deputies of the month. We do our like I say, our promotions at that time, as well as welcome in and swear in all of our new officers. But there's some people out there that want to get in it for the same reason me and Scott did, and that's to serve. And that's it. If you're going to be in law enforcement, that's it. It's just to serve. And like I said, if you don't have that serving heart and that serving mentality, go do something else, because you're not going to be happy in this profession. Because it's just about helping people, and that's it. But, I think you're going to see more things happen between local, especially here in East Baton Rouge Parish with us, and on the state level as well.
And I lied. Is there anything else you want to add when it comes to the jail and the juvenile detention center? We've heard the horror stories. It's
both of them need to be torn down. The East Baton Rouge Parish jail is the old part of that jail houses about half of our population. It's the same jail I worked in when I started here in 1976. It's the same place. The newer part of the jail was built in the 80s, but it too is falling apart. I mean, lack of maintenance over the years and so forth and so on has really taken a toll on the place. I've been advocating for a new facility since I've been sheriff. I'm not trying to see how many more people. We wish we didn't have anybody, but the real world is we got criminals and they got to go to jail. But I don't like it because I don't think it's conducive for the safety of the people we're entrusted with their safety. That's our jail populace. I don't think it's and it's certainly not conducive for my people. I like I say, I started off there, worked a year, and then they put me on the road. But
is there anything on the horizon with funding though?
Well,
for it,
the mayor, he's totally for both facilities, because the juvenile facility was built in the early 70s, right after they built the prison. It was built in the 70s sometime. But it's dilapidated too, and it's just, I mean, I want you to come tour it whenever you want to. Get the warden, should take you through the whole place, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And that's what I did with Coach. When, I told him, I said, when he ran, he came and met with me and Hiller, and we just had frank discussions, and we said whatever we wanted to say, and he did too. He listened a lot to what we were saying. But the week after he got in office, it was the second week, I think, I called him and said, Coach, you need to come on up here. And he said, I'll be there in the morning, 8 o'clock. He showed up. We toured the facility about 3 hours. I brought him, when we went back up to the front, I said, what do you think? He said, this place needs to be torn down.
But how much will it cost to build?
It's going to cost a lot. And they're exploring all the different avenues, whether it's a bond. I personally don't think we need to look more at the public-private financing of it. I think that would be better than, look what happened to Hiller. Hiller has an excellent office.
A tax will not pass.
It's not going to pass.
There's no way. Taxes, even if it's for teachers, whatever, people are done being taxed.
That's right.
So that will not pass.
That's right.
Well,
but it's really, and my warden, Kathy Fontenot, she's one of the best in the business, but my God, she's got the toughest job of all of us. I mean, running that prison is just it's hard. Like I say, I went there when it was still a 10-year-old facility, still in good shape, but it's the same thing I worked in. Same pipes on the wall, same cages for the deputies in the central control, same everything, same cell blocks, everything. And it's just, we got to do something. And I'm worried about it. Some people on the council accuse me of trying to fear monger, but I don't know how in the world the feds have not come in there and stepped in and put us on a consent decree, shut it down, and if that's the case, you're going to spend a lot more money than you would if you do it yourself and get it done. Because they come in, they tell you who's going to build it, what they're going to build it with, how they, what you're going to have and how you're going to run it and everything else. So you lose total control over all of those things. And it costs, and I've looked at the ones that those have happened to, it costs you sometimes twice as much to build and operate as if you do it yourself and go on and do what what needs to be done. So I'm praying that'll happen. It needs to. That's one of the reasons I'm running again. We got a little over 2 years left in this term, and but I'm not finished. I got more things I want to get done. But I know when the time's right. Good Lord will tell me that. But I thank God for putting me here. I know He put me here to do what I'm doing. Not a doubt in my mind, and I don't think He's finished with me yet, and I hope the people are.
What term are you on now, Sheriff?
This is my 5th term.
Okay.
Yeah, but I did 7 terms in Baker as chief of police, and now this is my 5th term I'm serving right now. So, but of course, I got people like him. You need to run. You got to run again. Yeah. I guess you always gonna have employees that's gonna say, "Yeah, we run again. I need a couple more." But as long as we're getting things done, and I got people like Scott and everybody's working with us, it's rewarding to me because I know that I got the best of the best we can get with these guys and girls, and. I thought you were going to put in an application at one point, but
I considered it, Sheriff.
Yeah.
Is there anything else either one of you guys would like to add that we did not touch on?
Scott?
No, we're just going to keep doing what we do, which is coming to work every day and doing what we have to do to serve the citizens that we're here to protect. We're going to keep doing our best on our investigations, trying to do what we can to work with our gang unit and help try and keep bringing these numbers down. And just coming to work every day and putting our best foot forward and doing what we have to do to serve our citizens.
That's right. I don't know if I mentioned it to you real quick, but we've got actually 33 deputies right now that are assigned to that unit. Not counting the number of people y'all have in VCU, but just the gang enforcement intelligence unit with the narcotics and the SCAT, street crime unit, and the intelligence unit. We got 33 deputies that's all they do is they work that full time. And we're short there too. I'd like to get 3 or 4 more. Not him. I got to keep him where he is.
Well, we appreciate both of you guys coming on. This was very telling of a lot of the inside. So often it's a quick interview, 1 minute, 2 minutes, and the story's only a minute and a half. Here we get a full, more than an hour conversation, and we're really able to dive in deep. So we appreciate you taking the time out as well,
I appreciate you having me. I've tried to come on several times. And
don't you start with me. And he's canceled on me twice. Yep, you went there.
Oh, I wasn't going to cancel on this, I can promise you.
You know you weren't. Well, to our listeners, as always, we thank you for listening, and we will see you on the next episode of Louisiana Unfiltered.